Welcome back. In this video, you're going to understand about how to map composition. What do I mean by composition? Let me show you. If I show you my earlier account class was having city and country, the address details. We always prefer fine-grained classes whenever we are modeling our domain. So the fields related to address can be present in a separate class called as address. So I want to refactor my code. So what I did is I created a separate class for address which contains city and country, street, etc. can also be added, but now for simplicity I have only city and country. And account is having a variable of address. This is the first problem we discussed about a mismatch between object world and relational world. In Java classes, we prefer fine-grained classes. We want small classes with few fields. So here I create a fine-grained class called as address, and I have address inside account. Now, how to map these two classes to database? Let us see. One way is I can have account table separately, where account number is a primary key and address table where address ID is a primary key. Then what I can add one-to-one association between them, one-to-one relationship between these two tables. But the problem is, whenever I want to retrieve say an account with primary key say 100, we need to join these two tables, so the performance of the query is impacted. So whenever we are mapping classes to tables in database design, you also need to take performance into consideration. So let me think about another solution. Instead of having a separate table for address, what we do is we have a single table called as account, where account number is still the primary key, and city and country of address will also come to account table. So address does not have its own table. Account we can say is embedded into, address we can say is embedded into account. So in this case, address class is not having its own table. We call such classes as value types. So we can classify our domain class into two types. Any class which has a corresponding table in database is nothing but we call it as entity type, and a domain class which do not have corresponding table in database is a value type. So right now I want to map address as a value type. So how to do it? Very simple if you are using Hibernate. So see this account.hbm.xml. Now what I want to do is I want to map address. So to map address is not a simple property, it's a component. So it is a component tag. Component name of the variable is what? Address. Okay. And what is its class? Class is equals to address. And I have to write the properties. Property name is equals city. I can give column here if I want. City, whatever it is. My city I'll give. And one more property, country. So these are way to configure component. Now let us see. I'll try to save this object. See here what I am doing is I am creating an account address object with Bangalore and India, and I have an account object. While creating account, to the constructor I am passing the address. Then I am saving the account. Let us see. Before I do that, let me drop the database and recreate it. Okay, now let me run. What is it saying? Property not found for address. Oh, 1 minute. I'll go here. Address does not have a getters and setters, so maybe I'll generate them again. Source, generate getters and setters. Okay. So now let me run this. If you see, the insert query should be fired, and insert query is inserting city and country into account table only. Let me go and check the table. City and country are embedded inside account table. This is how to map composition. Before we go further, let me show you one more thing. What if I want two addresses for my account? One is home address and one is office address. So I'll modify my class to have both. So see here. Okay, I'll make this as a office address, and also I'll create private address, home address. Okay, then this dot home address equals to address, and this dot office address is equals to, so assume that I'm giving same values as of now. Then I'll go to getters and setters and delete and recreate them. So I have two addresses, home address and office address. Now how to map them? Coming here, what I have to do is I have to use home address for a component tag, and here I'll map it as home underscore city, and country also I'll map it as column country underscore city. Then there's one more address, office address, so I'll write one more component tag. Name is equal to office address. Again, class is same, class is address only. Then inside this I will write property city, but here the column value I will give as office underscore city, and country also as office underscore country. Now let us check. I'll drop the database again once more and I'll recreate it. Okay, so again let me save it. See, now in database account table is having home city, home country, office city and office country. So that's how we can map composition using Hibernate. Now how to do the same thing using annotations? I'm working on this JPA project. I'll map it. So this address class is not a value type, is not an entity type, right? So till now we were mapping entity types by using entity annotation, but now address is not an entity, it is an embeddable class. Embeddable, because address, column, city and country are getting embedded into account. So we have to map value types using embeddable. And then if you want, you can give the column names here. Column, I'll give, say, name is equals to my city. I'll give one more column, name is equals to my country. Now coming back to account has office address. I want it to be embedded here, so I am using embedded. If I say embedded simply for both home address and office address, what happens? What will be the column names corresponding to office address? The column names will be my city and my country. And similarly for home address also, same columns. Oh, conflict is it? We want separate columns for office city, office country, home city and home country. So what we need to do is we need to override the attributes present inside the address. So we should use annotation called as attribute overrides. If I just want to override one, I can use attribute override, but since I want to override more than one, attribute overrides. If I press Ctrl space, what is the value? It's an array of attribute override. So whenever it is an array, you have to keep it in curly brackets. Array of what? Attribute override. Attribute override. And what name is equal to? Name is nothing but the property city, comma, value. See, column. Column is of what type? Column annotation. So column is equals to, at the column we have to use like this, and name is equals to what? This for office, right? So I will use office underscore city. So there is one more attribute to be overridden. I'll copy this and give comma. Country is office underscore country. So that's it. Now similarly for home address also, I'll copy paste, but here I'll give home underscore city and here home underscore country. That's it. Let me now save this and check what happens. Before that, let me drop this database. And I am recreating it. Now I will say so check the database. I'll refresh. Account tables having home country, home city, office city and office country. Same like what we did in Hibernate without annotations. Is that? So what you can do is right now, you can open the lab documentation given to you. Hope you have downloaded the lab documentation, the zip file and extract it. And you can just go through the corresponding lab and open it and complete the lab exercise. Step by step instructions are given to you. Go ahead and complete it. So this is a documentation collection of value types. Sorry, this one. These are one collection of mapping value types. So here steps are given. Follow the steps and complete the exercises before you move on to next video. See you in next video.